I don't believe in the concept of equality. There's no way everybody's going to be equal.
Interestingly enough, in our community, you get more respect coming home from prison than you do college. We also, in our culture, education is looked at as something that's nerdy or square.
In my case, it's unique. I get the praise for what I do because of what I did. Fantasy without reality is insanity. I wrote this in prison, actually. If you're going to think of a crazy idea, if you can't make it happen, that's when it's crazy.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, we are on Cannon's class, and this is a very special Cannon class because we got a true professor in the building and a true artist at the same time, from the No Label Academy.
Yeah.
But also, prolific MC, and just cultural philosopher from the DMV. IDK, what's poppin', my brother?
What's up, brother?
Pleasure to have you here, man.
Thank you.
In Cannon's class. I mean, and it's kind of fitting that, this podcast is all about, education, literature, but then at the same time, life. And you're a walking book. And,
wow, I love that. I love to hear that.
You've done so much in such a short period of time in the space of hip hop, but still, some people are just now being introduced to you on even a major level. So I want for, some people watching this for the first time, like, who is this guy? Who is IDK? First, let's start with the name, man.
Yeah.
What is it?
IDK stands for ignorantly delivering knowledge. Yeah, and I came up with that name in prison. I wanted a name that would prompt people to ask a question, but then when they ask it, I wanted to give them something that they could leave with,
Yeah.
So.
Now, without incriminating yourself, what was you inside for?
I mean, it's people it's for armed robbery and gun weapons charges.
Really?
Yeah.
DMV is serious out there.
It can be,
But you from a middle class area, so
Yeah.
let's talk about how like you didn't have to rob.
Nah,
So you the most dangerous type of criminal. You doing it because you want to.
It's so funny, man, because I say it in the song. I was like, we watching different news because shit to prove be worse than shit to lose. It's like, that's what it was. It was things that I was trying to prove because I grew up around, even though I grew up in a middle class neighborhood, surrounded by me, where I was at was the hood. And the school that I went to was the hood. And it's like, I think I always been on this quest for love, and like I wasn't getting it at home because I didn't really get good grades in school. So it's like I felt like my family didn't give me the love that I really wanted because of that. So when I went to school, public school, everybody knows in PG County, Maryland, if you go to a public school, you're going to a bad school. Like that's just what it was, at least at the time. And so basically, when I did go to school, you got to think about it. If I'm getting bad grades, who am I going to connect with? I'm going to connect with the other kids that's getting bad grades. And that became the love that I really wanted from home. And the more I did things that showed them that I could be around them, the more I kind of got the love, at least what I thought was love, from them, So at an early age, I kind of realized, like, the importance of the company you keep.
Product of your environment.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and then coming from, having parents, really from the diaspora, the energy of immigrants from Sierra Leone, both from
Sierra Leone and Ghana. But I grew up with my mom and my stepfather, which were both Sierra Leonean.
Yeah. So there's a certain level of pride that comes with, education. So how was that? I mean, you sound like you wasn't excelling,
No.
and the fact that they look like, look, we made it out.
Yeah.
We got to take this opportunity to be in the States seriously. What were those conversations like with your parents?
Those conversations with my parents were very much so like, I think it got to a point where they tried and tried. They sent me to Pittsburgh to live with my uncle. It's like one of my strict uncles that, at growing up, I was always scared of him.
Yeah.
So they sent me over there. I was wilding over there, doing things I shouldn't have been doing. And then basically, when I got back home, it kind of became a thing where, like, they just gave up on trying to keep telling me. Yeah. They tried.
I mean, clearly, you have a brilliant mind and a spirit not easily tamed.
Mm-hmm.
So where does that come from? Like, I mean, in the sense of where, like, was it passed down, or you just a out the box type of thinker? He was a young boy that it was difficult to control.
Yeah, I think like for me, it was I got more of a reward from doing bad things than doing good things, and doing good things seemed a lot harder, mostly the school part of it, because I couldn't really pay attention to things that I didn't find interesting.
Right.
So that's really what it was. Yeah.
So I mean, where did all of that switch up? In prison?
Yeah, the first time I got locked up, I was like, nah, fuck this shit. I'm not doing this ever again.
Right.
It was like, yo, I mean, it took me like, I say the moment I got in, I say I lasted a 24 hours before I kind of was like, okay, nah.
Where was you locked up at? What's
the first time it was in PG County Correctional.
Okay.
Yeah. That's one of the worst places you could do time, because any county jail is just like not set up for you to be there for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, when you go out to the rec yard, it's literally concrete. There's no grass. You can't see over, like it's concrete all the way up.
Cages.
You can't see, basically in a cage.
Yeah.
There's a basketball hoop right there, and that's it.
Yeah.
Know? So, yeah, there definitely was like, it took me like 24 hours to realize that. And then they put me on a juvenile unit with in an adult prison. So everybody in my unit had the worst charges basically in that county, because normally you would go to the juvenile facility if you had lesser charges. So it's people with murder, carjackings, armed robberies, things like that. So that was difficult for me because I didn't know nobody there. So I was on my own, and they gonna try you for sure, and they definitely did. And it was one of them things where, and when I say try me, I don't mean like the try that people might think when you're talking about prison. I'm just talking about like
just pressing you.
Yeah, pressing you. So it just kind of was like a thing where it was very hard to defend myself by myself. You know what I'm saying? Eventually, like, things calmed down, everything was straight, and I learned what they say, how to bid, like how to really do time.
Yeah.
The second time I went back in from like an inmate who he was in there, he was my cellie, but he had a murder charge.
Yeah.
And he'd been in prison, and he just like, nah, you're supposed to, tuck your sheets in like this, or you're supposed to do this when you do that, or there's like specific protocols that I was never taught the first time. So when I went back in, he kind of taught me that, and that's why the third time I went back in, I already knew what time it was.
Yeah. Interestingly enough, in our community, and even they've said this in jest many times, but like, you get more respect coming home from prison than you do college.
Yeah.
And it's a real thing, because in our culture, what we call stripes, or what we call overcoming obstacles, you get praised for that. And one, they're trying to lift you up and build you up to hopefully you don't have any recidivism or return. But it's also honoring you for what you've been through, because we all know that this system was not designed for us to win.
Of course.
And the systemic issues go all the way back to times of slavery. Mm-hmm. So when one has put the weight on their shoulders, or has dealt with the weight of their shoulders, and it's then removed, it's a cause for celebration. Yeah. But it's unfortunate, because for individuals who've never been incarcerated or have avoided, the criminal justice system, we kind of overlook them. But in your music, and you as an artist, do you feel like you get more credit for, the prison time, or being a Harvard professor? Because we also, in our culture, education is looked at as something that's nerdy or square.
Well, I think in my case, it's unique. I think that I get the praise for what I do because of what I did. You get what I'm saying? Like, it's like now there's an example of somebody that relates to them going through certain things. So you gotta think, but like in the hood, right? The kid that's gonna go to college most likely didn't really hang out with everybody, didn't really get into the same things as everybody else. So that is like an anomaly, and in that sense, you're kind of like alienated from the rest of the group. So they can't see themselves in you and look up to you as, oh, I can do this thing too. Matter of fact, it's probably envy more than anything in that situation. But see, if you see that I did this and now I rap and now I do all this fashion stuff and now I'm at Harvard, now the idea of education is a lot cooler because of the foundation of the things before it. You see what I mean?
Yeah, real talk.
Yeah.
So you got a quote that's interesting about fantasy and insanity.
Oh,
man.
yeah.
What's that?
Yeah, fantasy without reality is insanity.
Right. Tell break that down.
Basically, I wrote this in prison. Actually, that's the funny thing about it. It's basically just saying if you're gonna think of a crazy idea, if you can't make it happen, that's when it's crazy.
Right.
But if you make it happen, it's not insanity.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
They always say the craziest people in the world are the ones who actually change it.
Yeah, for sure. I 100% agree with that. You know, and also I think the word crazy. There's a lot of words that people use that are subjective to the way that they may have a definition, but people don't go by the definition. And I think crazy is one of those words because crazy could be cool, crazy could be bad, it could be you're insane, whatever the case may be. You know, there's a lot of these words that we really don't use, in my opinion, correctly. You know, like I'll put like another word in there is like misogyny. Like people use that so freely. They say you're a misogynist, but like, do you know what the definition of misogyny is? If you do, then you wouldn't use that word. Even the definition of racist is misused. You get what I'm saying? It's a lot of things. So I think crazy goes in that world of misuse of words. So it's basically, what do you consider crazy?
Yeah.
You know?
As you said, the ones who are crazy enough to do it actually make the change.
Yeah, exactly.
So
if you make the change, then crazy's good.
Yeah,
You
exactly. We've seen that. Another one of those words we talk about it a lot, or I talk about it a lot, is narcissist. Narcissist.
That's another one of those words. Exactly.
And they talk about the origin of, where the story of narcissist is just someone who loved himself so much.
Yeah. Can I give you something though? This is to take away, like, the word narcissism is kind of like astrology. Within any sign, you can find a piece of yourself, so it almost fits with everybody.
You can
get what I'm
you
saying?
can put that label on anybody.
They put so many different variables in. Okay, a Libra. These are the traits of a Libra. And then it'd be like so many things that at least if you're a Libra, there's going to be one or two things in there.
Like, I'm just like that.
Or sometimes it's all of that.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So I think the same thing with like, a narcissist. There's so many things that could be narcissistic. Like you look at yourself in the mirror and you feel good and you're always looking in the mirror. Oh, you're a narcissist.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of those words too. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think we misuse the English language so much. Society doesn't realize that words that used to be objective are now subjective. Yeah. So
that's intense. That's pretty. Are you a avid reader or?
Hell no.
Yeah.
I don't ever read. Like I read. I don't. I think people think I can't read, like, because of how much I don't like to read. Like,
really?
Like if there's a bunch of words in front of me, I think it's a waste of my time. It's the craziest thing ever.
Tell me more about this.
If I could just pay somebody to read and then like extract the information, it's better for that's more you.
So how does one have you have your own curriculum at Harvard University? But like you said, reading is something that's not one of your pastimes.
Just because one, I got so much going on that the idea of focusing on an entire book all the way through. How long is it gonna take me? A week?
Yeah.
I can just go on YouTube and just get all the information.
Is that something more of this generation? You feel like the idea of literature doesn't really
100%.
hold true because technology has made it so simple for you to gather information and retain it if need be?
Yeah, well, like, there's these things that I want to say, like the idea of convenience. People think our vices like could be drugs, alcohol, sex, you know, whatever money. Our biggest vice is convenience. And if you put convenience in front of anything, you can almost guarantee it's like putting sugar in a certain location and not expecting ants to get there. You know what I'm saying, in your house, like during ant season. Like it's like for me, like convenience is our biggest thing, right? And social media, the biggest thing, that's the most valuable thing about social media people don't realize is information. Sometimes it's information you don't need, sometimes it doesn't matter, like, but it's information. And the easier it is to receive it, the more people will the more convenient it is to receive it, the more people will gather around it. That's why you see shit happening, like it went from like MySpace to was it Twitter was right after that, right?
Yeah.
And Facebook,
MySpace, Facebook, Twitter. Yeah.
And then like Twitter became a specific thing where you got specific information very quickly. You just read it really quickly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't got to read no full article even. You just read it, read the headline, whatever. And then it became like now videos,
pictures and videos.
Yeah, because pictures, you got to think about it. Words is a limited amount of information. But to see somebody physically is way more information than you think, especially if you see something physically with words on it. And then it becomes see something visually moving and then visually moving with words on it. So It's like, to me, the quicker it is for you to receive information, the more valuable it's going to be. That's why I don't read.
Right. Well, so I mean, in your name, if you're delivering knowledge, your delivery mechanism is your music.
Yes, for sure.
And that's where you feel like you said you feel that your main job is you're a teacher.
Yes, for sure.
So, but you're not teaching in a very, like in a standard way with books.
Although there's books in the curriculum that people are supposed to read before the class.
Oh, right.
These are like I've read before. Of course.
Yeah.
I'm saying like now
it's just
I've
not your
like a lot of the basic information that I need.
Yeah. So I mean, how does one let's talk about the No Label Academy. What's it all about? Like, if one was to sign up for it,
yeah,
how do they? Where's the entry point?
Basically, at some point before class, we put up like a message. Saying that applications are open, and then you apply, and then there's a team sometimes of 12, 14 different people. Some of them are from Harvard, some of them are from other schools, some of them are just part of the team, and they all go through the applications, and then we narrow it down to about 40, 30 people, and then I go through the applications, and then we get it to like 20 to 25 students. And basically, it's not based off of, although we ask for your GPA, it's really not. I personally didn't want it to be about that because I didn't do very well in school, and I'm here. So it's like, I want it to be about who's really willing to put the time, the effort, the sacrifice into this music, the music industry, and who really wants the information, but not only that, who can utilize the information the best way. That's what it's about.
There it is. And so once one gets into the class, like, are you teaching people how to go against the typical way of being signed to a record label and majors, or is it, like trying to break down the No Label Academy name?
Yeah. I never really loved the idea of,
or is it just no labels, or like no labels at all?
No label in terms of what to label you as.
You label yourself.
The best thing I can label myself as is a very general thing, and that's a problem solver. Anything specific is very hard to label me as. So that's why I say, like, that's what they mean by no label, not like no record.
That's what it says. Like, to label me is to disable me. To define me is to confine me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's talk about that, man. What are from your spirituality to how you identify, like, how do you navigate those waters?
So the way I look at like spirituality, right? I don't subscribe to a specific religion, but I don't completely agree that religion is not real. I think that it all used to be probably one thing and it turned into a gigantic game of telephone. And I think once that happened, it got spread out and different beliefs started to come into play and different people started practicing things different ways. But I think that whatever the origin of religion is, I believe that that's true. I think there's too many things that correlate with things that are being said in different scriptures or whatever the case may be, that make me kind of like open to the idea that religion is real. Now, I am not saying that it is real, but I'm also not saying that it's not. I am more leaning towards the idea that it is real, though, just not when it breaks down to different religions. That's not what I agree with necessarily. And for the record, it's only because for me to really figure it out, I'd have to spend probably 2 to 3 lifetimes dedicating my life to the study of that, which I'm not interested in. I rather just have a general understanding and a general understanding that there is a higher power, and try to move morally move the best way morally possible in terms of how I maneuver this on this earth, and that's to me is good enough.
And there's always a constant debate, when it comes to religion and spirituality about, who's right opposed to what's right. You know what I mean? You say if your morals will let you know what's right, but we want to know who has the right message. And when you talk about that game of telephone, through your music, do you feel like what is that message that you're delivering when it comes to your spiritual walk? Or even as anybody who's listening in, can they tap into it? Because it got spiritual vibes to it.
Everything I do is from the heart. I learned how to tap into my subconscious when I create art, and in my subconscious, I try to make sure it's open to positive spirituality, and I don't even write my music no more. I just kind of get in the booth and say things, and they come together, and that's me being in touch and tapped in with whatever this thing is. So for me, it's not as well thought out as people may think. It may be in my subconscious somewhere, but like I think like when I do it, it's me just tapping into something, and that kind of speaks through me.
That's powerful. So, I mean, knowing that even at this right here, there's young people that are inspired by you daily. If your solid message to your fans or to the next young IDK watching this right now, man, what would you say to them?
I hate people that are negative and don't believe things. I don't hate them, but I hate when people are negative and don't believe things that they have never seen before can't happen. And I would tell them never to let that be the determining factor. Everybody, you said something about like earlier about like the craziest people are the people that change the world.
Yeah. The ones that actually do it.
Right. So the thing is, most people live in a confinement of others' mindsets, and it's hard to come out of that and then decide to make something happen.
Right.
A lot of us have fear of failing. It's so funny. Just to go back to the Harvard thing, I teach the class. I taught the class in the School of Engineering, and there was engineering professors and scientists that would come down and check my class out because there's literally a guy, Kip is his name. He was making synthetic hearts out of some type of fiber, and when you put the stem cells in the fiber, when they multiply enough, the heart starts beating on its own.
Oh, wow.
And basically, and it's like paper. It feels like paper, this thing. And basically, he came and he said, this is Harvard. This is one of the best schools in the world. But once you leave, once you go to graduate school and you leave undergrad, it's not about how well you could study, how good your grades are because of that. It's not about doing homework. It's about being creative. And the problem is, if you come from a school like Harvard undergrad, you're not used to failing. Your whole life, you never really failed in
Right,
school.
right.
So the problem is, to create the new thing, you have to be okay with failing.
Right.
And what he felt like was very important for his students to see us do. And when I say students, I'm downplaying it. They're like scientists.
Yeah.
They have to see how we are so okay with failing when it comes to a lot of different things. And I basically realized that at the end of the day, when you come up with an idea and everyone's telling you it can't happen, you have to be okay with the fact that you may fail, but you kind of have to go past that and do everything you can to not fail, you know?
Yeah.
Instead of being in fear of the fact that you could and never doing it at all.
So what's your goal? What's your mission? Why are you here?
I'm here as a problem solver, a social problem solver. And it doesn't necessarily mean social justice. It doesn't mean social media. Just anything that to do with the world and how we interact. Sorry.
What's one of the problems that you're looking to solve?
My biggest hurdle in my priority is solving the problem of black people, specifically in America, and the inequities that are faced. And it's not to be equal either. I don't believe in the concept of equality. Doesn't mean I don't believe in the concept of equal opportunity in the workspace, things like that. What I mean by that is the chase for being equal. There's no way everybody's going to be equal.
Right. Nah, that's
I
real.
think we're supposed to be here to work as one, and we don't realize that. We're not supposed to be competing with each other, because every time someone tries to be equal, they end up competing with each other. That's what happens. Equality leads to superiority, and then it just goes back and forth. I think I don't believe in the concept of equality, you know, and I think that's why I go back to more so with black people in America, trying to find a place where we all I say have better opportunity, much better opportunity than currently, because we all know what slavery has done. That's why it's interesting when people who I deem as kind of smart say things like, well, slavery was 400 years ago. What does that have to do with today? It's like, if you're really smart, you understand like what that does. You understand that that's not a thing that goes away just because it's not happening right now.
Generation to generation is passed down, that trauma.
Of course. And then let's even take it a step further. Let's go to something even more tangible than trauma. Think about it. You were a slave. 1865 comes. Now you're not a slave, but guess what? You're still a human being that has to survive. Okay, what's the opportunity to make money? Not much. You can't really get a job like that, right? You have to have, your family. You have to take care of everybody. What do? Maybe I go steal. All right, I go steal because we have to eat. All right, let's say I have 3 kids. All 3 of my kids grow up knowing that I steal for us to eat. Most likely all 3 of those kids are going to do the same thing, but let's say they don't.
Right.
Let's say one of them doesn't. Okay, one of them decides to do it differently. The 2 do, and then those 2 have kids, and they have 3 kids. And the same cycle happens. So like the amount of people that are funneling through doing the right thing, it's going to be way smaller than the amount of people that aren't doing the right thing. That concept right there, just because of slavery, that's one thing out of probably 100 that I can name that make it very simple to understand that it's not slavery was then 400 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Or whatever, not 400 years ago, whatever it was.
Nah, but it's funny. They talk about that a lot in this book that is banned, where it goes all the way to today in the destruction of black civilization, and just how the idea of once we were enslaved, it was, and even if you take it beyond slavery, even to like John D. Rockefeller, when they were building America and then the education system, is like they only wanted people to be able to even as education, just be good workers and not free thinkers.
Mm-hmm.
And when you strip someone of their identity, which is probably one of the greatest things that we still deal with from the PTSD of slavery, is that we don't know who we are.
Yeah.
And the fact that you, interestingly enough, your parents are not ADOS. You're not a descendant of enslaved people. Do you think that has anything to do with your makeup or how you operate differently from any other, African American or someone who, as I call it, is someone who has ascended from enslavement?
Yes, I think it gives me perspective. I think that even if you want to take a little bit less tangible approach, that is still, I believe, is still true of generational trauma. My trauma may not be exactly the same as someone whose trauma comes from slavery, right? So for me, I think like it gives me the opportunity to see the world and see the things around me from a bird's eye view, instead of being down on the ground and seeing these things. It makes it very hard to understand like what's ahead and all these things. So yes, I think that helps a lot.
Nah, man, and I mean, again, having you sit here today, drop these gems and everything, it also reminds me of like, one of Malcolm X's greatest quotes is that, education is the passport to the future. So, but now going towards the future, the way you educate, the way you teach is not in the fact that you are a professor at Harvard, but then at the same time, you're not teaching in a formulaic way. You're not caring about grades and GPAs and even in a sense where you say you're not really focusing on or don't believe that reading is necessarily the way that soaks up information the best way. You feel like even when it comes to testing and things that way, it's just you feel like once you give the information to someone that they desire, it's in them, and it doesn't have to be tested or it doesn't have to be done that way. As we wrap it up, man, I mean, how did you come up with that philosophy?
Man, I just be thinking about shit like randomly. Like I don't know how to explain this. It's like for me, like, and when I say problem solvers, like as long as I have variables about something, it's the weirdest thing. Like I can kind of come up with an answer in a way.
Is that just your natural genius, or is it like are you just you off the beat type of thinker that you feel like you get your wisdom comes differently than everyone else's?
I think my wisdom does come differently than most people. I won't say everyone, but most people.
It's just a gift.
I think so. I think the foundation comes from that. And then I'll give you an example again. Even with the reading thing, it's mostly because I've read a lot of the foundational books that I may have needed to read.
As I say, when you locked up, they give you all the basic books. They do. Like the prison starter kit of books.
Oddly enough, I didn't get those books.
You didn't get the 48 Laws of Power.
Nah, that was after. I read those things like and understood them like after. But it was more so like it's like the foundation, like for me, as long as like the foundation of what I'm trying to come up with or what I'm trying to build is strong, I can usually figure out an answer to a lot of things. As long as it's accurate, the foundation is accurate, and I leave room. I leave room for failure too. I don't mind failing, but I take very calculated risks with what I say and what I think about,
That's dope. So, I mean, we talked about it earlier. You teased it. I don't know if you were joking or not, but the book, you said you got some ideas.
Oh, yeah.
When is it coming, man? Are you going to put all of this wisdom in a book?
Yeah, I do want to kind of start putting it together. It's in my mind. I don't even know the first thing to do. Like I can tell you how to get a record deal. I don't know how the book stuff works.
Well, come holler at your man, because not only do I have a record label, I also got a publishing imprint too. So if you want to, I can help you put your book out.
Oh,
man.
yeah?
Whenever, I done
That's hard.
tapped in with some of the, some of the people that, aren't necessarily authors, but I believe it's our duty to share our stories. We are storytellers, whether it's out of our autobiographies or whether it's through literature, but we got so much inside of us that we do got to leave it in these books, man, to make sure that, when it's all said and done, we were able to put our stories down and our messages out there. Like you said, these new ways, it starts here, but whether it's the audio book, whether it's the visual, whether it turns into a documentary or a movie, man, your story is powerful and the world needs to hear it from generation to generation.
Okay, yeah, for sure. I it's gonna be interesting selling books to people after saying I don't read.
Hey, but that's the world we live in.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
Because
fact.
I think there are a lot of avid readers that follow this podcast and these journeys that understand exactly where you're coming from. You know what I mean? I mean, it's funny because one of the people who have been on this show that I sat across that said the exact same thing was Kanye West. He'll get out there. Yeah, get out there and brag how much he don't read. But he's saying I'm such a genius that, what I'm putting forth is better than what you can give to me. And that's just his he's like, whatever's in them books, I know more than that.
Wow.
That's Jay's perspective.
Okay,
And he's proven it time and time again. Man, continue to blaze them trails, continue to prove it, man. And I'm a fan, and it's been an honor to sit down.
Thank you.
It's Candace Class, y'all. We out.